Hey everybody, today I'm going to be doing some upgrades to my Dell Inspiron 1525 notebook. Recently I worked on a compact Inspiron C700 notebook that was very low on memory and needed more RAM. This computer had 2 gigs of RAM installed, and it was 2 times 1 gigabyte, and the C700 was 2 times 512 megabytes. So went ahead and swapped the memory out of this machine into the C700, and it was a whole lot faster. So what I decided to do, since I more or less gave away my old memory for real cheap, so I go ahead and buy some new memory for this thing. And I figured, why not, let's go and get 4 gigs of RAM for it. So I went on Newegg and bought some G-Skill SODIMM memory, and it was $54.99, something like that. Because of course this ain't as cheap as DDR3, but still, this memory is fresh out of the factory. It's dated May 2012, and today is May 21st, 2012, so it's fresh out of the factory. And I figured I'd go ahead and just show you how to install it. It's real simple. Go ahead and unpack it. And since the old memory's already been removed, we'll just go ahead and install the new sticks. This is a 4 gigabyte dual channel kit, which is 2 times 2 gigabytes. And I've had such good experience with G-Skill, I figured I'd use it on my laptop too. And like I say, memory is so easy to install. It's probably one of the easiest upgrades you can do to your computer, and adding more memory will increase your performance by a good bit, especially if you're low on memory. You just push it down in like this. I'll show you again. Line the notch up, slide it down, press, and it locks in. The memory's installed. And let me go ahead and tell you something else about adding memory to a computer. Let's say you got a newer machine that has, let's say, 1 gig or 2 gigs, maybe 3 gigs of RAM, and you want to add more to it. Let's say if you want to get 4 gigs of RAM like I did here. There's one important thing you need to keep in mind is, let's say you bought the computer from a store, or let's say you install Windows with 2 gigs of RAM or 1 gig of RAM. In most cases you'll be installing a 32-bit operating system. But when you go to upgrade to 4 gigs of RAM or more, the 32-bit OS cannot address it all. It can only address 3¼ gigs of system memory and graphics memory combined. So I'll have to be reinstalling Windows on this machine. I'll have to reinstall from Windows 7 Professional 32-bit to Windows 7 Professional 64-bit. And one more thing I'm going to tell you about notebooks, which I guess I'll make a separate video about this too. Well, first I'll go ahead and tell you that I also, when I first got this thing, I got it for real cheap. I put a bigger hard drive in it. It's got a 160 gig hard drive in it now, which is really not that much, but it's good enough for my uses, which I might get a bigger hard drive for it sooner or later, whenever I feel like it. And another thing I did to this machine was dropped in a better CPU. It used to have a Pentium dual core CPU. I think it was like a 1.8 gig, something like that. And I dropped in this Core 2 Duo, so 2.5 gig CPU. Not sure exactly what kind it is. I think it's T9300 or something like that. I'm not real sure. Of course, me, I'm really an AMD fanatic, but of course I do have some experience with Intels, and this is pretty decent for what it is. And this machine also used to have 1 gig of RAM. And it's funny to know, I recently uploaded a video about that compact C700 about Vista computers coming with low amounts of memory. This also had Vista on it, and it only had 1 gig of RAM. So it was another Vista Home Premium machine with a low amount of memory. So that had to go. So I put 2 gigs of RAM in it, which was actually used pulls from other machines, and loaded Windows 7 32-bit. So anyways, that's what I did to it originally, and of course when I started my college semester earlier this year, I went and bought a new battery for this machine. And here's one thing I can't stress enough when it comes to batteries for laptops. Don't overpay for your batteries. I mean, if you order your batteries from, let's say, Dell or HP or whoever, you'll waste some money because they're going to want a bunch of money for those batteries. I mean, this particular battery here is a 9-cell, 72 watt-hour battery. And the Dell equivalent of this, their 9-cell, I think it's like $150 something, if not more. Which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I sell refurbished desktops for cheaper than that. And also be careful when you go to certain outlets like Batteries Plus and Radio Shack. I mean, these are both decent stores, not trying to put down on them, but they want too much for their batteries too. Their generic laptop batteries. I went to Radio Shack the other day and I noticed they was wanting like $100 for their replacement battery. When it comes to replacement laptop batteries, I personally think the best place to go shop is Amazon.com. This particular battery here is an Anchor or Laptop Mate battery, and I paid $25 for it. It's a 72 watt-hour 9-cell battery, 6600 milliamp hour, and it has been a very good battery. I've used it for 5 months now in school, and it holds a very long charge. When this computer sets idle, it'll last around 5 hours, and under typical use, I can get 3 hours out of it, which is not bad at all, because I mean the old battery was in pretty bad shape. So anyways, let's give you some updates on my Dell notebook. So anyways, any questions or comments, feel free to ask.